Down, tika tika tar, tika tika down.
My name is Stephen Long. I was born in North Carolina in the United States on the East Coast. My father's a doctor. I grew up there, but during his internship I lived in Kentucky for 3 years, lived in Florida for 3 years, but then ended up back in North Carolina, attended high school there, attended culinary school there, attended university. That's where I met my first wife, a beautiful woman, and that's where my adventure began. This is where I represented the sun shining on me, because the sun is the source of all life on earth. In this period of my life, the sun, or the life force, the life-giving force, was providing me with happiness and love, satisfaction, a sense of satisfaction. And then I had heartbreak with my first wife. But I attempted to maintain my life. I was operating a restaurant. I had my own restaurant. And then it drops. Here you can see this was my divorce. And on the day that I was driving back to the Appalachian Mountains to get my last box of possessions, a man with diabetes passed out at the wheel, came across the road, and hit me directly head on. And broke 86 bones in my body. Almost killed me. When I first woke up in the hospital, or not woke up, people told me I woke up a few times, but my first thought that I can remember was, oh my gosh, I almost died before I saw the Great Pyramid of Egypt. I began to develop a sense of hope that I can leave and there's an entire planet left for me to see, cultures for me to see. There's possibly a sunrise, maybe a new love. But the question mark is, I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's possible. I drew the pyramids because that was my objective. And it wasn't my last and final objective. I was simply proving to myself that even a broken man that has lost all his money, his family, and literally his physical capabilities can still make it from the other side of the world to the Great Pyramid. I wanted to see India. And I had met some people on the internet in India. And I went to a really, well, from American standards, it looked like an old shop that was falling apart. But from Egyptian standards, it was just a regular travel agency. And I went in there and they gave me a very cheap flight to India. The way of living there is completely different, almost like walking through the Stargate to another planet. But the smells and the colors, you could be in a part of town where, or anywhere that was trashed with garbage and smoke coming out of the garbage and stuff, and yet you would see the women walk by in the brightest, most vibrant colors, and you could smell the incense burning, and you could hear the chanting come out of the temples. And so I stayed. I decided to stay for quite a period of time. Then I had an opportunity to go to Turkey, and I immediately took that opportunity. As I did everywhere, every country I'd been in, I wanted to get to know the people in the neighborhood. So I went down to a local, I really don't know what to call it because it wasn't a bar, but they did serve beer. It was like a social area. And because I was new there and did not know that there were some bad guys there, they thought I was a tourist. They put some poison in my drink. I discovered 4 hours later, which I perceived to be about 20 minutes, that my bank account was being drained. And I put a stop on my card, my card. And as soon as the debit card was blocked, they had, all the men and men from outside came and immediately began threatening me. You know, you're not going to pay us more. And I was frightened out of my mind. I didn't know what to do. And they threatened me. They took me outside. Some guys made threats to cut my head off. They didn't know that they had me pinned against my own car. They just thought they had me pinned against. But because it was my own car, I was able, in a moment of less pressure, to pull the driver's side open and slide in the car. So they started pounding on the car, and I drove the car out and around. You know, I lived on the hill right beside the place, so I drove all the way around so that nobody could see where I lived. I didn't want them to come to my house, and came up the other side of it was a large hill. It's halfway between a mountain and a hill. And immediately decided, I have to leave. I'm done with Turkey. So my wife and I sent out our CV or resumes on the internet, and the very first response we got was from Singapore. So the next part is we have our opportunity to go to Singapore, but major damage was done right here to my liver. In fact, the poison they gave me killed a portion of my liver, and if I had actually finished the drink they gave me, it would have killed my whole liver and I would be dead. So I immediately crashed all the way down to where I literally thought I was gonna die. That's why I put the gravestone here. I thought, this is it. My liver's failing. But I was coming to Singapore now. So they take me to the hospital and did an MRI, and the doctor at first thought it could be liver cancer, which frightened me to death, which is the reason for this red downturn. I thought, oh no, liver cancer, no, I don't want that. Turned out not to be, it turned out to just be scar tissue from the poison. So after a little bit of time of adjusting and getting my diet straightened out and getting my schedule straightened out and adjusting to Singapore, finding a really nice place to live right on the water, I began my climb, and the reason I represent it with a ladder was because it took effort to pull myself out of this state of mind that had been caused by the experience in Turkey. And so that's what I represented by climbing the ladder to Singapore. And I got to Singapore, and then there was this huge spike in my sense of well-being, like I have finally made it to a country that I actually want to stay. Then I settled in, which didn't bring me down too far, it just changed my attitude of, okay, now I need to begin my efforts of rebuilding my life in Singapore. I knew in Singapore there's all these multicultural areas. Singapore is a very, extremely multicultural country. And so I began to explore. And at the top, the reason I put the incense burner is to represent the scent of India. And I came to Little India in order to see if it was being represented in the way that I experienced India itself. And I remember I asked the driver to take us to the arcade, because that's what I read online, is the Little India arcade. And immediately when we opened the car door, it was as if it was almost like a flashback. I could smell India. And I felt completely safe. And so I immediately just went right into the arcade, started saying hi to people, talking to people, made some really good friends immediately. Some of them to this day, every morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, text messages or calls, good morning, Stephen, or I talk to them, and it's literally every day. And it really is a microcosm of the India that I knew.